KCAAradio.com.
KCAA.
Welcome to the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan, a brand new show about labor and worker issues. The host of the show is Randy Corrigan, Secretary Treasurer and Principal Office and leader of Teamsters 1932, one of the largest public sector labor unions on the West Coast, representing workers in government and non-sworn law enforcement personnel. Randy Corrigan is a 30-year Teamster who first became involved in the labor movement by volunteering his time as an organizer with the Teamsters Union at the age of 21. Since then, he's helped thousands organize, mobilize, and achieve bargaining rights. He accomplished this by spending countless hours with brave men and women all over Southern California, in their living rooms, on the picket line, to bring workers towards victory. This is the Worker Power Hour. And now here's the host of the show, Randy Corrigan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Randy Corrigan in the Worker Power Hour, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. Long-time organizer, first-time radio host. And got some more people coming into the studio right now. We're going to have a full list of guests throughout our show over the next couple hours. Good to obviously be back. And got a lot of good feedback from last week's show. Is even as controversial as the subject has a tendency to be. I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of minutes, but really, as a recap of last week, want to talk about how we appreciate that the former general president came out and talked about the scholarship fund and talked about how many people have benefited from that scholarship fund, as well as how many of you could apply for it. If you are obviously a Teamster, you can apply for that scholarship fund. And, I know that from his perspective is something he spent his entire life trying to build towards, and it's good to see that it came to fruition in 99. It's still paying out more than $1 million a year in scholarships as of today. And the James R. Hoffa Memorial Scholarship Fund is just an incredible program, and it's obviously sponsored many young adults into their higher education or trades. And again, we appreciate Jim coming on and talking about that. We also had Taylor Gonzalez come on from her vintage resale shop in Yucaipa, and she did a really good job of explaining some of the really cool stuff that they sell there, and obviously a new partnership there with Teamster Advantage. And she'll be coming out to some of our larger events with a booth here pretty soon. So Taylor, thanks for coming on. If you're listening, we appreciate you being a small business, and what a creative way to approach some vintage stuff. If you didn't listen to last week's show, please go back and listen and hear the stories of kind of what they do to, resell product that, you'd be surprised at what people want, even though it's a little older, it's been used, whether it's clothes, shirts, jeans, stuff like that, jackets. It's really good to see, stuff being repurposed and reused, and obviously them making a business out of a small business in Yucaipa. Great job. And obviously we had Connie on, Connie Bottini, one of our librarians with San Bernardino County. She did a phenomenal job through, over her more than 30 years of doing the job. She did a great job being on the show and talking about all the cool things that happen in the library. We're so far removed today with electronics that we forget how important having a library is and actually having books are. And so thank you, Connie, and thank you to all those librarians out there that are listening in or can listen or don't listen. You do a great job, and you inspire a lot of people to, look at the world through a different set of eyes. I also want to just take a quick moment to talk about the subject that I spent probably about 30 minutes on, which is the lack of endorsement from the IBT, and I explained kind of why the lack of endorsement in the presidential election happened, but also explained that other parts of the organization had issued endorsements. And it sparked people being upset, and I can tell you, literally just a couple hours before I went on the air last week is when the announcement of there being no endorsement from the International Brotherhood of Teamsters in Washington, D.C., that sparked a huge debate that happened over a few days, and everybody kicked up a bunch of dust and got mad one way or another. And I was able to, read and see a lot of some of the comments. And one of the things that I tried to explain on the show, as I did last night at the membership meeting at Teamsters Local 1932, is can we be a little nicer to each other? Let's be direct here. Seeing some of the things that people say to each other in this space sometimes, the insults that come out so fast and the anger and the criticism and the demeaning that happens from some people when you don't like what you hear is why we can't resolve anything most of the time. Look, this is 2024 and we're supposed to be a little more civilized, and we should be able to agree to disagree from time to time. And, just today I saw some things being posted where, people want to be angry and mad and make some comments, and I'm going to be very direct right now. I instructed our comms people, anything that's disparaging to our organization, you take it down, period. Delete it. And people can be mad all they want. We didn't create Facebook or Instagram or these spaces for you to vent about something that you got really mad about this moment and you disagree with. If you want to go on there and say, hey, I disagree, respectfully, I disagree, and I think we should do A, B, and C, and you say it in a very respectful manner, no one's going to take that kind of stuff down. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to disagree. But to say some things that we've all witnessed and we all know that's going on here in the last few years, it's time that we just become better with each other and we become a little more, courteous to one another, and we just stop because it doesn't get anybody anywhere other than upsetting people more and driving you further away from finding any resolve for anything. And so I really appreciate the feedback from a lot of people last night and over the last few days, specifically last night, regarding the discussion we had last week over the no endorsement, and also why we believed that certain candidates were supportive of labor and were not supportive of labor. There is facts that drive these decisions, and I will remind everybody, as I said last week, I personally have spent my entire adult life doing this, my entire adult life, in the space of advocating for working people. And that space has taught me how to kind of understand how bills, legislation, anything that's being propped up, measures, propositions, to read them, understand them, and recognize the full impact, not a 15-second soundbite on a commercial, not what my favorite politician says or doesn't say, but more so understanding the real impact of policy that's been created over a long period of time. And spending my entire adult life in this space, I hope that creates a little bit of credibility to just understand and respect the position. Even if we disagree with it, it's okay. When we're frustrated, maybe we vent a little bit to ourselves, but I was once told by somebody who was very, very smart that it's okay to have your thoughts that you don't share with people because they're your thoughts, and just because they're your thoughts doesn't mean they have to be shared with everybody because, quite frankly, just because we're thinking it doesn't mean we have to say it. And there's a lot of truth in that, especially when it comes to the volatility of politics and, quite frankly, the volatility of politics today. Any endorsement or lack thereof of endorsements that happen in the space of labor has everything to do with whether or not these individuals support working people, period. Policies that they have either started or created, policies in which they have eliminated or taken out or fought, and positions and actions and activities in which they've done over a period of time. So again, I really appreciate many of you that talked about the way we discussed the issue last week, as well as last night at our membership meeting, and explaining why certain positions were taken. And it helped me feel more at ease with taking the position because, sometimes when you're an elected leader or you're a leader or you're in a position where you do have the microphone in front of you, or you're the person that's in charge of an organization, you just take all the energy and it's usually negative most of the time, that you're having to sort through and you're having to figure out, am I on the right path or am I not on the right path? So for all of you that have reached out to me, I want to thank you, because it helps me. It helps me understand, no different than we have asked for a lot of feedback in how we've built out this show, and understanding as we build worker power in the industry, as we build great relationships with the small business community, as we help working people and help small business and help our community in all the ways that we're doing, we're using and utilizing this show and this platform to explain all the good things. I'm not going to come on here and if I disagree with something my general president did or some other local union did and use it to disparage everybody and beat everybody up. That's not positive. That's not productive. That's a negative environment that we can't inspire other workers to do the things that they need to do when they're at work. So with that, once again, one last time, I really appreciate the fact that you shared those thoughts with me. It was helpful to me. Please continue to do that as time goes on. If you see things or don't like certain things that we're doing on the show, I definitely want to hear from you. I also, if you like things that we're doing on the show, please let me know, because that helps me gauge what we're doing, when we're doing it, and how often, and the adjustments we make as time goes on. And so I'm going to shift into the next part of the show, which is our live shout-outs. We have some really cool live shout out from the city of Needles, Christina Perret and Tony Rubacaba. And they are with Bella the dog. They are I believe they work in the animal shelter there in the city of Needles. And they're with Bella the dog, who has been waiting to be adopted for a year. So if you're in Needles or you're going through Needles and you want to adopt a dog, guess what? You've got someone there. And I hope that Bella likes the show as well. So those of you that are listening in Needles, you make sure that you give her a treat while the show's on. That way she wags the tail and we'll know that she's enjoying the show. Next live shout out is from ARMC Justin Carrasco, as well as Teresa Perciato, Jeremy Lopez, Chaz Kelly. Actually saw all of them at the membership meeting last night. From TAD, we got Ivan Cruz and Jason Nugent listening in live. We have more listening live. We just don't have the list on us. And so if you're listening live and we missed you, feel free to send it in. We'll cover you on the next show and we'll say hi. So my next part of my show is the Think a Teamster and 3 Teamster jobs. For those of you that haven't seen the Think a Teamster program that we've built out, there are buses and billboards and everything going on within the Inland Empire, where we're reminding everybody of all these cool jobs that Teamsters do all over the country, and specifically here in the IE. And we have their pictures on the side of the buses and the billboards, and just thanking a Teamster. And this is, I know a lot of people, it's a favorite part of their job, because they get to hear not just a job that Teamsters do, because we do represent everything from airline pilots to zookeepers, A to Z. And we get to describe a little bit of what these jobs are too, and it sometimes catches people by surprise. And so here's the 3 Teamster jobs that we're going to talk about today. One is the Code Compliance Officer in the city of Big Bear. And so the next time you're in Big Bear, you're up there, either if you're up there helping them fight a fire here recently, and shout out to all those firefighters and the crews and support staff to make sure that they contained all those. But if you're up there in the city of Big Bear for recreation, or you live up there, those code compliance officers for the city are responsible for ensuring that properties and businesses comply with the local laws, regulations, and ordinances related to public health, safety, property maintenance, and their primary goal is to maintain the overall quality of life in the community by enforcing codes designed to protect the residents' property and the environment. And sometimes they're not their favorite person, but sometimes they are the favorite person, because if your neighbor or a business in the area or something that's going on is not up to code or not up to speed, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, we're overregulated. There's too many rules." Look, let's be clear. if we don't have rules and we don't have some regulations, we know what's going to happen, and people take it too far and they end up poisoning our water and doing things that they shouldn't do. That's clearly been shown over thousands of years of time and history. And so we really appreciate the work that these code compliant officers do, and making sure that things are, I mean, think about it if you're handicapped and you need to make sure that you have access to particular areas. And maybe for the business owner or for the space that's got to deal with it, it's an inconvenience to them, but think of how much of an inconvenience it is to an individual who's in a wheelchair and is looking for access to something. We have to typically try to think about it from a perspective like that. And so we really appreciate that, as well as we appreciate them making sure that you have the food safety issues at let's say you're going to go to a restaurant, that all those codes are being enforced properly to make sure that you are comfortable when you go to a restaurant and you're going to eat, and you know that you're going to have a good meal that is not going to make you sick or hurt you in the long run. So again, City of Big Bear code compliance officers, thank you very much for the job that you do. Really appreciate that. Street maintenance crew. All right, yeah. There's we're missing Mark today, but guess what? We have somebody else. Why is the name slipping my mind right now? You got to jump in on the.
Oh, it's Eric.
Eric, that's right. My bad, Eric.
No problem.
I'm sure you've been called worse than I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Definitely. Even by my mom, I think.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the first one?
Exactly.
That's the first one that calls us a name.
Exactly.
Appreciate you bringing the applause in there.
Oh, no problem.
Street maintenance crew leaders. A street maintenance crew leader plays a key role in managing and overseeing street repair and maintenance of operations for a city. These are one of my favorite jobs because typically you only complain about somebody in this space when you hit a pothole or when there's something broken. What you don't realize is that a lot of times these crews are moving thousands of pounds of asphalt, filling holes that you never hit, fixing street lights or fixing and repairing curbs and sidewalks and stuff that you never tripped over and you never had an issue with, literally to the thousands. Obviously, we typically only complain when something is negative, but street maintenance crew leaders and workers are very important to every community, making sure that those street maintenance crews are working and operating correctly. The team lead is responsible for ensuring that roads, sidewalks, and other public surfaces are safe, functional, and well-maintained. When the snow gets bad in Big Bear, they're the first one to clear the paths. And I'll give you an example. If you get into the Arrowhead, Big Bear, you got different types of snowfall too. You got snowfall that comes down so bad that they got to pick it up and then they got to pull it out, and they got somewhere they're just plowing it and moving it to the side. And so these crews are on top of trying to make sure that everybody can get around, drive around, and access all the great things that are in and around your city. So the Big Bear members, we really appreciate the work you do, and the street maintenance crew, and specifically the leader. Assistant engineers. An assistant engineer for a city plays an essential role in supporting the design, development, and maintenance of public infrastructure projects. So think about that. Next time you either complain or you like the way something's done, in a lot of cases, they're a teamster in the Inland Empire that helped with these things that I just listed. And, the engineers it's really important for them. They work closely with code enforcement and making sure that when these things are laid out and they're built out, that everybody's kind of thinking ahead of all those future obstacles and making sure that they comply with what's needed for the particular area. They typically work under the supervision of senior engineers, assisting in the planning, coordination, and execution of engineering tasks. And so you're talking, bridges and sidewalks and overpasses and all kinds of different things that happen. It's incredible the things that they do. And so thank a Teamster and thank those assistant engineers for the things that they do in our particular city. And so with that, there you go. Eric, thank you very much. I really appreciate you bringing in. We're going to have to make Mark take notes. Hopefully he's listening in right now. And so I know I normally go to news, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shift. I'll come back to news in a bit, and I'm going to sporadically jump into news. I'm going to move into our Teamster Advantage partner. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have our Teamster Advantage partner come over and sit down. We're going to do this live and get him in here. I actually should have sat him down and had him ready to go while we were when we got started, because I knew I was going to bring him in early. But you know what? I had a brain fart. Wasn't really thinking out loud. So I guess we'll just roll with this, right? This is what we do. We just, put the headphones on. Let's turn your mic on. We'll do a quick test here. Make sure you're good. Am I doing okay, Eric? This is my rookie status here. Just rolling with it. Eric, am I good? You got to just, those are words of encouragement, man. He's full of, I can't say it on the air. It's live.
But he's full of something.
Yeah, there you go. So Teamster Advantage, we have a Teamster Advantage program that's comprised of more than 1,000 small businesses in the Inland Empire. It's my favorite part of the show. I love having the small business on here. I love connecting small business and workers to the same space, because there's so much we have in common in this space. Everybody's just really trying to work really hard to raise our families, make sure our kids do right, be productive within a particular community. And small businesses face a lot of similar challenges the working class face as well. And what we've done is we've built this relationship with small businesses. We're in more than 26 chambers of commerce throughout the Inland Empire. And we advertise for them for free, and we want to encourage people to shop locally before they shop anywhere else. Go to a small business and utilize a small business before you reach out and find whatever you're looking for at one of those big box retail outlets, or unfortunately, online with these huge corporations that are pulling a lot of money out of our local economies. And so with that, I think we have a blind company on today. And my apologies, I don't remember your name again. Today's just a bad day for me.
Maybe you didn't have enough coffee today. That
could be it.
It might be what it is.
It could be it. So introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Nick, and my last name is Little for the listeners out there. I'm 6'2", even though my last name is Little. But we represent Budget Blinds out of Yucaipa. We are a family-owned and operated business, and when I say family, I mean it. I married into this job. I married the owner's daughter.
And they got you.
And they nailed me. And they're like, well, I guess you're going to have to sell blinds for a living now. We've been around for 15 years. We do everything from shutters to draperies, roller shades, faux wood blinds, you name it, we can cover it. We have a saying in our business, we cover windows because not everything looks good naked.
Don't you have that on your window? Or did you have that?
In fact, it's on the back of most of our shirts.
Yeah, I've seen that. 'Cause we live in Yucaipa, and I've actually seen the slogan. It's very catchy.
Yeah, it works
very
well.
Catchy.
Yeah, it's usually good for a laugh or two.
It's a real good. I would love to hear some funny stories that you may have. So how long has the business been in business?
So Bonnie and Brian are the owners. They are also my in-laws. They purchased. It's a franchise. So we purchased the franchise in 2009. And have been in business ever since. So this is our 15th year in business. The funny stories have actually started more recently since I've had my two children. My oldest is about 1.5 years, and he thinks it's the best thing ever to unload and load the van. So when you see
child labor here already?
Yeah, and he works for Snacks. It's great.
He works for Snacks.
Give that kid a bag of fruit snacks, and he'll unload that whole van.
I'm gonna tell him to file a grievance. I want 2 snacks.
No.
I want a gummy and a chocolate.
Yeah, well, yeah. Once the chocolate comes into play, he'll unload that van even faster.
That's true. That's true. All right. So what's the funny story about him unloading?
Well, I mean, he's 1.5 years old. I mean, the kid's not even.
It's got to be fun.
He's not any taller than the counters, but he's carrying these boxes of blinds. They're 6 foot long, and he just grabs one end. He just drags them. We work out of our home, so he drags them through the garage, and these cardboard boxes, he's dragging them out, and he thinks it's just the greatest activity ever. And his mother and I think so as well, because
keeps him busy.
Yeah, we can just kind of push him off on grandma and grandpa, and he unloads the van for a half hour to an hour, and we just get to watch.
That sounds, it's always fun to have the kids around your profession because
It is, yeah.
they get to understand and see. I mean, when they get in their teens, they argue with you no matter what, right? You
Right.
don't even recognize who they are. But obviously, when they're younger, they actually, I want to go to work with you. I want to go to, and then there's a certain amount of time they go, no, I don't want to go to work with you. And then they get older, and then they appreciate the fact that they went to work with you for a little while,
Yeah.
and they got to learn the work that you do every day. So that's awesome that you have your son helping out.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And we've got a 3-month-old at home as well.
Do you have that one working yet?
Not yet, but once he can walk, man, he's on it. He's going. There's no free rides out here.
You can't bribe him with bottles?
Not yet.
He or she?
He.
He?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got 2 little boys, man, and they keep us busy even more than owning a small business does.
And good grandparents will put, will put Kool-Aid in a bottle or something and say, "How about this?" Their eyes get about this.
Yeah,
big
their
around.
eyes
They're
get
like, oh, I want that.
Yeah, that thing I said about unloading the van even faster. Kool-Aid, some
Kool-Aid,
chocolates,
some
just
chocolate,
a
boom,
box
get
of
it done.
juice, man. He's just going.
Right. So, a little bit more about your business. First of all, Teamster Advantage partners.
Yeah.
What's the discount which you get if you're a Teamster and you produce your Teamster Advantage?
So being budget blinds throughout all of our in-home consultations are free. So we have what we basically call a mobile showroom. So we have 2 vehicles. Each of our vehicles are outfitted with every hand sample, every fabric choice that we have available, every shutter design, you name it, it's all in that one van. And we bring all of that to you in your home. And I actually met Mark at a Yucaipa Chamber event, and that was how I got connected with him. He's partnered with some of the other local businesses in Yucaipa, and it seemed like a great fit for us. So as budget blinds go, and as part of the Teamsters Advantage program goes, we offer a 25% discount on all of the retail prices of our blinds. That's our
Oh my, that is significant.
that's our right away, regardless of who you are, where you've been, what you've done. You get 25% off the retail costs of your blinds. As far as the Teamsters Advantage goes, you flash that little card, and most Teamsters are awfully proud of being part of
Yes,
being
they
part
are.
of the local union. As soon as you flash that card, you even mention to us like, "Hey, I'm part of the Teamsters Advantage." We'll give you an additional 10% on top of that 25%.
Oh my.
So it really brings down the cost of your blinds. We do everything we can to make this as affordable as possible, because for budget blinds, it's supposed to be
Budget.
style and service for every budget.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you got the wide range of options.
Yeah. Anything you can imagine, from the mini blinds that we've got in the studio behind us, all the way up to top of the line shutters, motorized blinds. We have some blinds that move with the sun. Believe it or
What?
not, yeah, they will
that's some-
automatically adjust as the sun passes over your
That's
house.
some fancy finagling stuff.
It's some very fancy stuff. Yes, yeah. Yeah, I call those the tax bracket blinds.
Yeah,
'Cause you gotta be in a bigger tax
You got to be in a
bracket.
high tax bracket to afford those blinds. And do you do those blinds? I've noticed on some patios where they actually enclose the patio. They go down and they
We
got
can.
rails on the side.
Yes, yeah, we do. We do in fact have that option.
I'm
as
seeing a lot
well.
of those at like a lot of restaurants now that have like an outdoor seating area. They're using those to help kind of do the enclosed.
Yeah, yep. That's correct. They're called Zip EXT or Zip X blinds, and it's an outdoor roller shade. They can be motorized, crank, chain, you name it.
They can move with the sun.
Yeah. So not only can we do indoor, they can't move with the sun. Not yet. You're the one who moves with the sun. You go out there and you put them down.
True, right?
So yeah, we can do both indoor and outdoor shades. Pretty much every corner of your house that gets beaten down by the sun, we can cover it.
That's good. So, any other funny stories you want to tell other than the child labor that you're exploiting?
The child labor that we're exploiting. He's on payroll.
Sure, yeah,
Kinda.
And eventually he's going to get the inheritance, right?
Yeah, and he'll do just fine. My brother-in-law, who is our lead installer. I mean, when I say family, I mean it is family. My brother-in-law, he was actually supposed to call me this morning. He was supposed to give me some funny stories that he had, and he was
failed?
busy. Yeah, he failed.
He was too
So
busy.
just like you forgot my name, my brother-in-law forgot to tell me a funny story that we've had.
I got a question. Will they go to the desert? In other words, will you go to the high desert? What's your distance?
So because we're a franchise, we work on.
See, people don't call in anymore; they text.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's I mean, you can do that.
I don't know. I probably shouldn't be looking.
You shouldn't
at my
be doing
phone.
that while you're driving. I hope nobody's doing that while they're driving, right?
or doing a radio show. That's a good question. How far do you? What's your?
So our franchise is territory based. So that our territory specifically includes Yucaipa, Redlands, Loma Linda, some areas of San Bernardino, some areas of San Jacinto, and then we can operate all the way out into Cabazon. And then there are some gray areas that surround us as well that we can work in and out of. But if it's outside of our territory, we have to get either explicit permission from that territory owner to go there, or we have to pass off the lead to the owner of the territory.
Okay.
So yeah, we operate within.
Will they honor the Teamster Advantage rates? I'm just kidding.
They might. I don't
might,
know.
yeah.
Yeah. Say, hey,
It's worth the shot. Here's what I always say: call anyway. If you're, even from a different area, you call, and you guys will sort that out.
Yes,
You'll
absolutely.
figure out what to do.
Yeah, if you
with
are
it.
outside of our territory, we can absolutely point you in the right direction.
So, what's the name of your brother-in-law that failed to get us these good? other
His
stories?
name is Ryan, and I hope he's listening.
I hope he's listening too, Ryan. So now we can do a little grilling of him, right?
Yeah, yeah,
He's
we
your
could-
brother-in-law, right?
Yeah, he is my
Yeah,
brother-in-law.
so what do you not like about your brother? I'm just
Oh
kidding.
no, I'm not gonna go that far. There isn't a thing I don't like about
We
that
could
guy.
turn this into a different show here. We
He
can have
is-
some fun with it. To make
yeah.
it like Maury Povich or something, right?
Yeah, you want to talk about a good family that I married into? This is a good family. We work together. We go on vacation together.
No, I want to hear the other stories. I'm just kidding.
Oh, the other stories, man, those aren't as fun.
That's good. No, that's great that you married into a great family.
I did, yeah, absolutely.
You're fortunate.
Yeah, lucked out in the in-laws department.
Sometimes people, it's not. Sometimes they love their spouse, but
yes,
the other parts of the family they don't
yes.
get along.
I have heard horror stories.
That's
yes.
good. No, that's awesome. And that you all work together. Especially, you have to all get along well. If you work together, you live together, all that family integration,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
you got a smile on your face, so it
And
must be working.
I mean, coming from previous careers, moving into window covering sales, I could almost guarantee that it was never something I envisioned myself doing, but couldn't be any happier doing it. It's the best.
So, what do you think of the Teamster Advantage program that we have? Obviously, almost 100,000 people. It's more than 30,000 households within the Inland Empire that we're advertising to. And what's your thoughts on what that program brings to small businesses?
Well, I mean, being able to have an app that has your name, your logo, and your phone number on it, just that in and of itself is worth. I mean, just being a part of the program, and it's we don't pay to be in this program. It was a simple introduction.
How
to
much do we
Mark,
charge you again?
I think it's like 99 cents a day or something.
Yeah, everybody trips out when we say it's zero. Like they go,
Yeah.
no, there's got to be a hitch here.
No,
no.
it's an awesome program, and we love being able to offer that. We do a lot of work with veterans, first responders, school teachers, counselors, even nurses and doctors. I mean, everybody needs blinds, and we can now
And those that don't have blinds need blinds.
need blinds because not everything looks good
Right.
naked.
Naked, right? Not everything looks good naked.
We're talking about
Cover
windows.
it
We're
up.
talking about windows here. Let's be
Cover
very
it
clear.
up.
So
It's amazing what you'll see through your window or through some people's windows
Yes.
sometimes. I actually have, there's a place in another area that they don't have window coverings on their front windows in the neighborhood that we go to often, and I wish they had coverings.
yes. Sometimes
That's all I'm going to say.
and you're thankful that you have window coverings.
Yes.
Because you just pull those.
Yeah, my wife
pull
is
those
very
shades.
good about as soon as it gets dark, she closes the shades up.
Yep.
So.
Yep, absolutely. We do the same.
Well, anything you want to close on? Because what we'll probably do here, Eric, is go to a break as soon as he wraps up. So let's be ready to launch a 90-second, maybe 60-second, 90-second break, 90-second break, so we can transition with our next guest. Anything you'd like to close on?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to extend my sincere thanks. It's a first for me to be on a radio talk show, so it's very nice to meet you. Really wish Mark would have been here because I like the guy. He's a good guy. But we are Budget Blinds of Yucaipa, family owned and operated for 15 years. We cover every window opening, whether it's indoor, outdoor. We can take care of it for you. and we're really happy to be on the show here. So thank you.
And just as a quick reminder, window coverings are a huge energy saver, enormous energy saver.
Yes, in fact, they are. We even have a company that their window shades have an R factor, which can get you a federal tax refund.
Nice.
It's a pretty cool program.
Well, again, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We appreciate the partnership. Thanks for being a small business in the area, and thanks to your family and your in-laws for carrying the load of a small business in Yucaipa and in the region, helping out the local community every single day. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate the partnership within the organization. And so with that, this is Randy Corrigan with the Worker Power Hour, KCA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. We're going to take a quick break. See you and listen to you in a second.
KCAA Loma Linda.
Are you graduating high school soon and wondering what to do next? College is one option, but why not consider the high-paying jobs made possible by Union Power? Labor Union Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get you into the high school to high-paying job pipeline. You'll learn all the skills needed to excel in opportunities across industries. Visit 1932trainingscenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingscenter.org.
KCAA.
Let's start with baseball. Astros smacked 3 homers, beat the Mariners to clinch their 4th straight AL West title. Third baseman Alex Bregman says they had to fight through a lot to get to this point.
For sure. Obviously, we started off super slow, and we had to grind for it all year long. And the guys just put their head down, never stopped believing, and kept faith and kept going.
The Astros trailed Seattle by 10 games in mid-June. Padres turned to triple play in the 9th, beat the Dodgers to clinch a playoff berth. Dodgers' magic number to clinch the NL West title remains at 4. Orioles heading to the playoffs for the 2nd straight season after beating the Yankees. The Liberty knocked off the Dream while the Aces beat the Storm. Liberty and Aces will now face off in the semifinals, setting up a rematch of the 2023 WNBA Finals. That's sports. I'm Ronza Moss.
KCAA.
Randy Corrigan back on the Worker Power Hour. I tell you, the blind guy was pretty good. I'm gonna call him the blind guy. I guess that's not appropriate. Blind guy. I meant, you know what I meant. The shutter guy. Let's call him the shutter guy. Anyway, he did a great job. Really appreciate him coming on. He did a good job of. He's never been on a radio show before. How about you, Joshua? You ever been on a radio show?
I have not been on a radio show. I've helped produce a few. I work in technical theater,
okay.
I resonate with Eric back there.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So I'm next joined. I know some of you may be anxiously awaiting for the news, or maybe you're not anxiously awaiting the news and you don't like the way I handle the news. But whatever. I love the cool thing about having our own show. We can kind of, flip it around and figure out what seems to be more comfortable depending on our lineup. We really appreciate you coming on. You're actually running for school board in the city of Fontana. Is that true?
That's right, yeah.
You have to blame the city of Fontana. I grew up in Fontana, and you have to blame their education program for raising me because, I am a product of Fontana Unified School District and Colton Joint Unified School District. The first half of my childhood would be in Fontana Unified. So just quickly, I know this show is not about me in this, but I just that way you can, when you tell stories, you can relate to all the schools I went to in Fontana. I went to Palmetto. I went to West Randall. I went to Randall Pepper. I went to South Tamarind. I went to North Tamarind. I went to Harupa Hills Elementary. And I know I'm leaving one of the elementary schools out that I went to. I'm trying to go in order. And then I went to Alder Junior High, I went to Sequoia Junior High, and I went to Fontana Junior High. I did. I went to all those schools, believe it or not.
Is
by
that
the
one
8th grade.
Is that one a year? Or you catch a couple in...
Sometimes 2 or 3 in a year. We moved around a lot as a kid, sometimes in the middle of the night. That gives you an idea of the upbringing I had. It was had some challenges to it. But with that, I appreciate it. It taught me a lot on how to deal with life. You running for school board in Fontana. I know you interviewed before our PAC committee.
Yep.
Our PAC committee was really impressed with you. They thought you did a really, really good job. So why don't you tell us about, because you're a teacher as well. And so you're a teacher, you're running for school board. I got lots of cool questions for you around labor, being a teacher, running for school board, civic responsibility.
Absolutely. So one of the things, I'm a younger guy, I'm 33, but growing up, I got to go to high school during the recession. I got to go to college when you didn't go to college, you were worthless in your life, and I don't agree with that at all as I sit here paying off tens of thousands of dollars of debt, paying off a college degree in theater. But I find myself teaching now, and what I've learned through my life is that labor is labor is labor, and we all need to stick together on it. I am the elected vice president of Mount San Antonio College Faculty Association. That's a subsidiary of the California Teachers Association, which is a subsidiary of the National Educators Association. I am a leader at the local level for one of the largest unions in this country.
Correct.
And in that responsibility, in that role,
thank you for being a teacher, by the way.
Absolutely.
Thank you for what you do.
I love spending every day in the classroom, and I regret a little bit right now that my reassignment takes me out, but I'm helping other teachers to fulfill their daily duties in the classroom and making sure the students are having their needs met and having their futures unlocked by learning the skills it takes to get into the actual workforce, and not the you have a degree, you're going to get something workforce that I was promised when I was in high school.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because my generation was basically convinced that if we didn't go to college, we were a failure. That carried over for a couple more generations, and I obviously think it's wrong. We now realize, I think that the educational institutions realize that was the wrong message to pound for a few decades. Yeah. And because it made a lot of people at a certain age feel like they were failures, even though they weren't. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with doing hard work every single day.
Absolutely not. One of my roles before I took on union leadership, we have an academic senate. It's kind of what guides our college academic freedom and policies, and we're the ones that get to write the curriculum and say, this is what we think the students need. To the academic senate, I was the career education liaison for 4 years, which means that I was the person on campus that our agriculture program, that our aircraft maintenance program, that our HVAC refrigerant program, they would come to me with the questions, what do we need to do to make better alliances with our with our post-educational career opportunities? And that really opened my eyes to all of the opportunities that are available that are on a skills base and not on a degree base, right? Most of those jobs, our welding program barely graduates students because they take 2 or 3 classes and they go join the union, and they're making more money than their professors are because they took 2 or 3 classes, learned the skills, and they're out there working. So I've been an advocate for that since that really opened my eyes. And teaching technical theater, I'm on the side of theater that builds the sets, does the lights, does the sound, does the costumes. And one of my in my teaching role, one of the things I was able to do was establish a relationship with IATSE 33. The students learn the skills and go into the LA IATSE, and that is life-changing experience for them because now they're not hoping for the next job. They're on the list waiting for the call.
Correct. And I think that you've already connected with our training center there, or there's a discussion for you to connect in this space. I vaguely remember a conversation. Someone gave me a report on this. Yeah. So again, great. So you're not just a teacher. You're obviously active in all these spaces, and that's what a lot of people don't realize, especially with individuals in your profession, that you're really driven by helping kids and helping learn, and it actually takes all these other pathways.
Absolutely, and it's something I didn't know about myself until I got into it. And I'm someone that's never really like, oh, I'm a leader, look at me, I'm a leader. It's always been, you know what you're doing, can you do this? And they keep adding on, and one of the things I still have yet to learn is how to say no when someone says, can you do this? But I've found that the opportunities that opens up for me, and the opportunities that I now have to serve my community and to serve the students and make sure that those students have the knowledge and the ability to go into a world that is maybe better than the one I had and better than the ones my parents had, right? Being knowledgeable about how to achieve the generational changing wealth that you can have in a stable union job or in a stable labor position. It's not always about get the degree, pay the debt, do the dog and pony that they tell you, because there are so many opportunities there for students and for young people to find their way into changing
and to find
generational
what they
struggle.
like too.
Yes.
Right? Like in high school, I loved wood shop more than I loved metal shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole couple generations that were like, huh, what? Wood shop and metal shop? Because they got rid of it, right? But point is whether it was crafts or metal shop or wood shop or all the different things I got to kind of test as there was auto shop, right? Like there were all these things that I could figure out what would connect to me and what I would enjoy doing more. For me, it was wood shop. It's what I really, really connected to and had a great time with. And to see those kind of disappear. Now, the good thing is we're starting to see them come back,
Yes.
right?
Yes, we
They're moving back because of exactly some of the things you're talking about right now is re-emphasizing the need. And also, what happened to kids, what I saw some generations go through and obviously represented them as they went through it. They get out of high school. They went through the process of, I'm going to go to college. I got to do this, checking the boxes.
Yeah.
Then they get into something they don't like and they're miserable at work. It's like, well, I was just chasing the money.
Yep.
No, you got to chase your passion.
Yes.
So the cool thing is if you like doing it and you make a decent wage and you can buy a home and have a decent car and get your kids around and raise them and do all those good things. That's what we got to get back to is emphasizing that that's okay.
Well, and I was fortunate enough to be finishing high school before most of the shop programs were closed.
Why are you making me feel so old?
Well, I'm sorry. That happens when I walk into rooms, unfortunately.
This is crazy.
But
Eric,
one of my
what's the deal here?
I'm the worst. I am.
Well, Eric's probably 25 too. See, I feel like the old guy sitting in the room. I used to be the young guy. I used to be the young one, and now I'm looking around and I'm like, I'm the old guy in the room. I don't get it. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're great. I appreciate you. One of my colleagues, he took the woodshop class. He took the advanced woodshop class. He wanted to take a third one his senior year. Like, we don't have another class for it. He took an independent study. He hand carved a cello and sold it, and it was almost six figures to sell this hand carved cello that was in tune. And he was like, "Oh, I can do this for a living," and it just clicked. And I'm like, that's it. It's right there.
That's right.
He loves doing it. He got to work with his hands. He learned how to make cabinets in advanced wood shop, and then he started carving instruments. And it's like he loves doing it. It connected to music with his love of the carpentry, and that's finding your passion and finding a way to make ends meet because you are doing what you're passionate about. And so much of what I teach in career education is exactly that. Find what you like to do it, and don't look back.
So let's shift gears here a little
Absolutely.
bit. I'm disappointed that, not in you, it's not your fault. I'm disappointed that there's two things that is missing in a child's education. Actually, there's a lot, but the two things I'm gonna pick on right now is really understanding labor and labor's role, because we're not a cartel like my son's high school book said that we were first, and second is really truly teaching civic responsibility. I think that even when I was in high school, I think it was starting to drift. So you're talking 86, 87, 88, 89 when I'm in high school. Mm-hmm. And that time period, civic responsibility started to drift a bit. And it seemed to be pretty absent, which I think it kind of explains some of the craziness we're experiencing right now, is that people don't understand their civic responsibility. First, their civic responsibility. Your civic responsibility is not to go on Facebook and scream about how you don't like everything, and it all needs to change when you don't understand how the governance of a city, the governance of a county, the governance and the responsibilities of those in charge for a school district, and the processes that are in place to deal with them, and what the constituents demanded for those rules that anybody in those positions have to be with. And so those two spaces, I would challenge those running for school board is to try to, in my opinion, is to increase them, because One, there is a law on the books in the state of California that requires the month of May is supposed to be the month in which labor is supposed to be taught in schools. And what we're trying to do is build these relationships with our PAC committee and make sure that, it's not like teach everybody to be a Democrat or teach everybody to be a Republican. No, teach everybody about labor and the importance of labor. Yes. Teach everybody why it's important to collectively bargain, because I'm sure you are well aware of the fact that collective bargaining wasn't actually legal until 1934 or 1935. So we had a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
Where
how'd that go for us?
Yeah, that's correct. And you had thousands of years before that, right?
Exactly.
So the point is it's something that's worth teaching. And what are your thoughts on me, throwing those softballs out for you?
Absolutely, I appreciate those. So on the first one, we absolutely need to be educating about labor. And I mentioned this when I was talking to the PAC committee as well. But it's interesting to me that in the 20s we decided to set Labor Day in September and not in May like the rest of the world has it, right? Everywhere else celebrates May Day.
But you know why?
Well, it was a distinct decision to separate the labor movement from the concerted efforts of labor around the world.
That's correct.
And that's absolutely why we need to be educating on what labor means, because we have a school system that was predating the collective bargaining, predating true unions, right? We had guilds, but true unions that the school system is based on the capital that funds the needs of who's going to fill their jobs. And we need to take that back as workers. We need to take that back as working families and say...
And we take it back with worker power, by the way.
Yes. Right? But we say the school needs to be training on how to be part of a community, part of a union, part of a movement, because we are the 99%, the 99.5%, right? We are the ones that need to be able to survive in a world that is created by people who have wealth beyond our wildest imagination, that have recently or not so recently decided that wealth should be made to make the world like they want it. And if we can take back and
you got my vote. Jeez.
If we can take back and show across the lines, it doesn't matter, right? Trump, Harris, vote who you need at the top of the ticket. If the bottom of the ticket doesn't follow the policies, if the bottom of the ticket doesn't follow through to teach about why labor is important in schools and what jobs are out there that are labor jobs and what jobs are out there, because everyone can vote to unionize, right? You can go into a non-union job and say, hey, here's 50% plus one of this company that wants to unionize, and boom, you've got a vote on your hands, right? And you can vote to take that step, but not everyone knows that because you don't learn that in schools, and that's not in your civics government class, but it should be, and it can be.
I would agree. I think you ought to run for governor. What are you running for school board for? Like, this is great, man. We can get Look, I know we got about 2.5 minutes until the break. What we're going to do is we have to go to a mandatory break. This is the break I can't control. So we have to go to a mandatory break at the top of the hour. That'll be about 4 or 5 minutes. If you're good, I want to bring you back.
Sure.
To have a couple follow-up questions, and then we're going to get to our other guest. We'll do a little transition in between. Very good points that you're making here. I'm thinking about what I can ask before the break because it's a little short. Absolutely. I don't want to be interrupted.
Absolutely.
But the more we can do to educate the general public on some of the things you just said, the better off literally everybody is going to be.
Well, and one of the things, this was a team think during the PAC interview, but it came to me, it came to them. We kind of talked about it real quick.
2 minutes.
The idea that it's like when I was in high school, it was every Wednesday, but I know it happens. The military branches are in the cafeteria during lunch recruiting. Why aren't the Teamsters? Why aren't the Carpenters? Why isn't the AFL-CIO? Why aren't we sending our labor union leaders?
Well, we are in Teamsters 1932.
Let's make sure we are in Fontana.
Well, right? We are. The problem is we're only one, and we're trying to get to all, and it's a lot. So there's a lot of cafeterias to be in. But you are right.
Yeah,
we should figure out. We as labor should be in all. So it can't just be one local. It's got to be labor as a whole.
Right.
Doing exactly what you're saying right now.
Right. Open the eyes to the 18-year-olds that have a choice to make at the end of the school year. Right. 17-year-olds who are planning for what's next.
Yeah. No. I can hear all kinds of good ideas coming together right here, and considering that we got 1 minute left, I'm not going to ask a complicated question, but so you're a teacher, you're a leader within the organization. You're this cool union guy. So you're not a thug, right? You're not in the mob.
I am not.
Okay.
If I was, I would have far more monetary value than I do.
Well, sometimes they're not good with their money. So, this is Randy Corrigan with the Worker Power Hour. What we're going to do is we're going to transition to a quick break. Got to take the mandatory break with NBC at the top of the hour. Randy Corrigan, KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. I am a long-time organizer, first-time radio host. We're going to go to break here real quick.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
KCAA Loma Linda.
Watch me dance. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is revealing the list of special guests for this year's induction ceremony. Dua Lipa will perform to celebrate Cher's induction. Several other artists include Dr. Dre, James Taylor, Roger Daltrey, Kenny Chesney, and Demi Lovato, who will take part as either presenters or performers. This year's class of inductees include Ozzy Osbourne, Peter Frampton, Dave Matthews Band, Mary J. Blige, Foreigner, Kool and the Gang, A Tribe Called Quest, and Dionne Warwick. The ceremony will take place October 19th in Cleveland. The first trailer is being released for the Ryan Coogler film Sinners. The film stars Michael B. Jordan and is set in the South in the 1930s. Jordan plays a bootlegger whose community is dealing with some sort of supernatural evil. Sinners hits theaters on March the 7th. The Weeknd is earning another accolade. The singer now has the most songs to hit 1 billion streams on Spotify. The streaming service says he surpassed Drake with a new total of 18 songs after After Hours surpassed the milestone. And the Tony Awards are returning to Radio City Music Hall next year. It's the first time since 2022 that the awards show celebrating Broadway will be held at the iconic New York City venue. Next year's date is set for June 8th. The show will be broadcast on CBS TV and will also stream on Paramount+. That's entertainment. I'm Kristen Marks.
This is KCAA.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Dibbs, teacher running for school board here in Garden Grove Unified Trustee Area 1. We need quality vocational education. The district cut 10 intermediate school woodshop classes and 4 auto shop classes. We need these classes back so students can have a better future. No matter where you live across this country, please support this effort so we can have quality vocational education. Go to nickdibs.org, nickdibs.org. Thank you.
I approve this announcement paid for by Dibs for School Board 2024.
What would you do if you had a broken bone? You'd go to the doctor and use your insurance, right? Well, what would you do if you have a serious problem with drugs and alcohol? Most people do nothing until it's way too late. Your insurance can help you get clean and sober with the assistance of a place like the Detox and Treatment Helpline. Many times, addiction treatment is fully covered. So why not use your insurance to treat your addiction problem just like you would if you had a broken bone? And with the Family Medical Leave Act, you're allowed to take time off by law, and your employer doesn't need to know the reason. So there are 2 good reasons. You've got insurance you can use for your addiction problem, and with the Family Medical Leave Act, it's completely confidential. Call now, 800-398-7414. That's 800-398-7414.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Spear, a licensed agent with Litchfield Insurance Associates here in Beaumont. A large portion of Americans don't have life insurance or don't have enough. Whether you need a temporary policy, something to help with income during retirement, or making sure your final expenses are taken care of, having life insurance is an act of love and security for your whole family. Having a local trusted agent makes navigating through the sometimes complex world of life insurance so much easier. And I would love to be the one to help you. I'm Kaylee Spear. For your free consultation, people are calling 951-769-0005. 951-769-0005.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
KCAA.
All right. Eric, you got Mark's going to be jealous of the music. Perhaps this brings back memories. Actually, what he did is he went back and he figured out when I was in high school, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to pull that song up."
Hey, don't tell my secret.
It's got to be it. That was my logic. Randy Corrigan with the Worker Power Hour here at KCA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. I'm joined by two guests. One is Joshua Christ, who is running for Fontana School Board, and he is a teacher. And just a reminder, Fontana was my stomping grounds. I lived in Fontana from the time of being about, 18 months old to maybe 2 until I was somewhere probably in my early 20s. So I lived all over Fontana. Just for all of you people that know Fontana, I lived on Randall, I lived on Miller, I lived on Merrill, I lived on Marigold, I lived on Fontana Avenue, I lived on Slover, I lived on Oleander, I lived on Alder, and I know I'm forgetting, McWethy, I lived on McWethy. Anybody that knows Fontana, Barbie, I lived on Barbie. Anybody that knows Fontana, you'll know some of these neighborhoods in which I just quoted, which will explain why I moved around a lot too as a kid. So with that, really enjoyed my time as a kid in Fontana. One of my most fondest memories of Fontana growing up is I remember being able to finally ride my skateboard from Foothill all the way to Valley because they finished the sidewalks all the way so that I didn't actually have to go off the sidewalk, get onto the street, go back up. Because obviously when you're trying to ride a skateboard down the street on the street on asphalt, it's a little more difficult than if you were on a sidewalk. I remember that as I was, I think, 13 or 14 when that happened, and I get a fond memory. And also when they built the hill over the top that dropped down into what's now Harupa Valley. Back then it was Rubidoux. The hill had just gone over, and they built that little park there, the regional park there. So, I can tell you all kinds of stories about Fontana. Matter of fact, when I get in the car and I drive through Fontana, I tell people, "Oh, we did this over here and that over there." Got lots of fond memories. Loved Fontana as a kid. I think it got a bad rap because there's a lot of good things that happen in Fontana too, and definitely some challenges. But tell me, what do you think of Fontana? I'm also joined by Kirk Garrison. He's our member with the Sheriff's Department. He's going to talk a little bit later about his cool job. But we've got these two guests. Kirk is on our PAC committee, and it was actually there during the screening for Joshua when he was asking for the endorsement from the local union. And we figured we'd just pull him in, and we'll just kind of see if this takes a natural twist. Sure. So I take it, seeing that you're running for school board in Fontana, you live in Fontana.
I do.
So where do you live in Fontana?
I live, actually, you mentioned Palmetto is one of the schools you went to. I live about 2 blocks from Palmetto.
From Palmetto Elementary?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah,
right.
I threw papers there. Fontley, Filbert, Hawthorne, Alder, Randall.
Pine and Kaiser.
Oh, Pine and Kaiser?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
We had a paper route there. My brother and I had paper routes there.
Throw a ball over the back fence, get it back from Veterans Park.
That's very true. Yeah, that's right. Anything else you want to cover? And Kirk, anything you thought of from the PAC committee? Because from my understanding, he did a really good job during the screening.
Oh, yeah, did a great job. Just the same as he did right now.
Actually, we need to turn you on.
Oh.
Got it. Yeah, but he did a great job. I was sitting in the corner over there, and like I said, you can definitely tell he's got a theater background. He's very eloquent. Can really, I relate those ideas to us. But I think that's what stood out to me the most is anyone who can really like speak their ideas clearly. I feel like that says a little bit about their personality and how dedicated they are to what they're about to do.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the feedback. I got feedback from my campaign manager who's sitting in studio. They're like, you need to talk slower. So I'm going to work on that.
Us people in labor, we have a tendency to talk fast.
I get excited and I just want to talk about it, which is one of the issues I've actually found on the campaign trail is I know the educational issues back and front because I've lived them, because I teach them, because I really want to push equity for our students in our schools, and labor is equity. So many times
it's the only thing that creates equity.
Exactly. So I get passionate about it, and I just keep going. And I'm like, oh, the voter tuned out like 3.5 minutes ago. Right? And I'm trying to figure out how to make these very important points about labor and why unions are important and what we need to do to prepare our students in our school sites to be part of the labor movement, because we can feel it swelling up. But we need the people coming into labor to understand why it's important for them to join in and why it's important for them to be a part of it, because that is the rest of their future. And I need to figure out how to button that down to 3 sentences so I can meet attention spans and I can meet the people that are here for a short time and here to figure out why I'm the person they should vote for.
Like I said, you got my vote. I mean, I don't live in Fontana anymore, but
you might again with all the moving.
Yeah, you never know. No, believe me, I the later part of my life, I am very much against moving because of exactly what I described earlier. However, and actually, Robert, you live in Fontana too. See, you've got this Fontana trilogy going on here.
I mean, I'll be voting for you. So.
I appreciate that.
And Kirk lives up in Forest Falls, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm up in Forest Falls.
You back in the house yet?
Back in the house. Definitely not as bad as the El Dorado fire. So, yeah, very grateful they were able to hold the fire where they were.
Lots of ash, lots of smoke dealing with. Any smoke damage?
Yeah, it's still smoke. I was able to clear it out because I have a very good air purifier from the El Dorado fire. So I had that running the whole time. As soon as I evacuated, came back a week later. Wasn't too bad. So
not too bad. Yeah, glad that you're safe. Glad that everybody around you is safe too. And and again, thank you for your service too. So, Joshua, anything else you want to talk about to try to convince voters? First of all, I want to thank you for coming in and asking for an endorsement from our members, because our PAC committee is it's comprised mostly of membership, and it's a committee that is for political action, and our members get around and we listen to candidates and we all kind of debate and argue sometimes very assertively. It's always interesting to see, oh, well, the union did this and the union did that. It's like, no, man, there was an entire process of everybody arguing over what decision to make. It wasn't like somebody woke up and said, oh, I'm going to endorse Johnny Joe.
Back to your softball question.
Get you a little closer to the mic.
Back to your softball question right before the break, though. Your members being a part of the decision-making process is what makes it not a quote-unquote thug organization, right?
That's correct.
It is member-driven. It is policy-driven. This is what our membership believes. And if you believe differently, get involved, because you're a member and you have the ability to be part of the decision-making process.
Correct. And most people, we don't get credit for it. Most people think that they grow union leaders, in this system that they pluck them out and then they put them in leadership roles. Like, we're all from the rank and file for the most part.
Yeah,
right?
you just pluck them out of Jimmy Hoffa's garden, right?
Right, exactly. Most of the leadership, it's a member-run organization. Members decide who their leadership is. They elect who their leadership is, and sometimes we can agree to disagree. You don't like necessarily what the leaders did.
Absolutely,
it doesn't mean you throw it out and it's worthless.
Absolutely.
And it's the reality is that unions and labor, collective bargaining, is the only thing that has brought any equity or equality in the last 100 years in this country. There is no other institution. There is no other organization. I would love for someone to come on this show and argue with me something different, because it is an absolute fact that labor and collective bargaining is the only space that laws have been built around protections, workers' rights and advocacy, environmental protections in a lot of ways, not 100% of the time, but I would say 95% of the times, they were born out of union collective bargaining and protecting the workforce workforce first, and then it graduated into a community. It spilled over into that space. Holidays, any of the protections that many people, millions of people take for granted every single day. Overtime rules, all those different things, like retirement plans, advocating for health care.
The 5-day work week, the 40-hour work week.
You mean we're not supposed to work 365 days a year?
Look, I'm just saying, if you leave it up
16 hours a day?
If you leave it up to the employer, we have a long history of showing the employer doesn't care.
Thousands of years have showed us that.
You said that earlier.
Not just 248 in America. Thousands of years have showed us that whoever's in power, whether it's a king or it's somebody conquering or whatever it is, that when it comes to them capturing the wealth and controlling whatever they were controlling, that labor never had a seat at the table. And when they being the powerful, the ones that had the money or the resources, they were never fair to the so-called peasants.
Absolutely. Never.
Including in the beginning of the United States of America in 1776. Don't forget, it's KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. It's the Worker Power Hour. For those of you in radio know that we got to say that every now and then. And plus, it sounds cool. I have actually people say, I like it when you do the call letters because it reminds me we're live on the radio.
It's super interesting because when I'm running for school board. It's a down ballot race. It's super important, right? Typically, our school board races, they're decided by 500 or less votes, right? There's 16,000 people that are going to be eligible to vote for either myself or my opponent. I urge you to vote for me. I'm the one that has been in the schools and has worked with the students, but that's probably going to come down to whoever gets the better of less than 500 votes that makes the difference in the race. And
crazy on how civic responsibility at a small level of governance, that easily can be impacted.
Absolutely. And here in California, we've got a 3-page ballot, which means you've got to get all the way to the bottom to get to that school board race. So I encourage anyone listening, make sure you fill out every bubble, right?
And look, as much as the discussion over Trump versus Harris and the politics and everybody freaking out over that, and saying some really hateful things that they really should think twice about. The reality is more is done by your local government than it is at the national level. That you can impact more change quicker by school board and city council, joint power authorities, water boards, board of supervisors. All of those local governance spaces are actually way more powerful, that you can affect change way faster. And it's important. And it's also important not to get caught up in the partisan sort of fight of all that stuff, because quite frankly, the machines of the Democratic and the Republican Party are lost when it comes to what needs to happen at the local level.
Absolutely. One of the big partisan fights at the national level, right? We hear, Florida schools are doing this, and it's social justice, and it's equity, and we have to be against this. It's I'm forgetting the term they use for it, and I don't want to gratify it anyways. But right, we're fighting the same battle here in California, but we're talking about it in a different way. And when we talk about presenting equity to our students and presenting social justice to our students, and what does that mean to me? And one of the things I really want to emphasize in Fontana, because Fontana is such a divided community, north and south, and along socioeconomic lines. What that means is there's 3 of us at this table, and all 3 of us come from very different backgrounds. But if I spend time in my classroom learning about both of your backgrounds and you spend time learning about mine, we're going to be able to come to a table and have a conversation, even though we have different understandings and different worldviews. And that's what will ultimately heal this partisanship and this massive divide in our country that prevents us from having the important conversations, right? The idea that if I was to sit down at a table with a Republican and a Democrat and they both strongly believed in their partisan and their politics and just that, we would never find consensus. But if we can understand where the others are coming from and open up that dialogue, we can move together as labor. Because again, 99.5% of us, if we can figure out that we are all on the same side, we will never lose an election again, and we will transform this country.
That is correct. And especially if we don't get caught up in the partisan fight of it too.
Exactly.
It's more based on real issues versus some of this manufactured stuff that we see from time to time. I want to shift gears again. You talked about divided Fontana. Obviously, Fontana is a very diverse community. I remember when Fontana was literally divided and segregated. It wasn't officially segregated.
We can. It was redlined
but
by
it
the
was,
banks.
That's right. And the communities did it. I remember some people will say this is crazy, but I remember the KKK marching down the street during Fontana Days.
You mentioned,
during the Fontana Days parade as a kid, I witnessed it.
You mentioned Randall Pepper was one of the schools you went to.
That's correct.
At our last board meeting, the board actually took up the motion to change the name of Randall Pepper to O'Day Elementary School after the family that was murdered there in the 40s as part of the racial violence that has existed in Fontana.
Interesting.
Because
I was unaware that was happening.
So they took the vote to rename it, and they will go now through the process of getting the signage and getting it up, and I'm sure that'll be a big celebration here in a couple months. But one of the points for renaming it was after that family was murdered in their homes, and they built a school on the site and totally erased the history of it, the KKK had meetings at that school site up through the 70s. And we need to talk about the history of the space and talk about what allowed that history to happen. And that is all part of understanding equity and understanding our colleagues and our community and what they are going through from their historical lines.
Yeah, and respecting it because, to truly, approach diversity, you have to constantly work at it. That's not something, it's just not one decision you make one day. Oh, yeah, I made sure this situation was diverse. It's,
absolutely.
Because the diversity, not only do you have to constantly work at it, the diversity actually shifts and changes. And what is diverse today or reflects the diversity today is going to be different in 2 or 3 years. And ignoring, I say this all the time, I find it, in 1776, look, I love my country, but I've also got to understand that when we formed this country, that it was built on the fact that you could own your labor, that there was slavery.
Yeah.
Like,
Things that people are uncomfortable talking about to this day.
Right. And the reality is it took over 100 years to find equity just on that subject. Now, obviously, the Civil War happened. There was, just because of what happened in 1865 and the freeing of the slaves, they still weren't necessarily free.
No,
so the reason why
50,
I say
60 years of
correct.
rebuilding where they're still not, and 100 years
correct.
that led to the Civil Rights Movement.
That is correct.
Yeah,
It wasn't until that's where I was going.
Yeah.
It didn't get until the 1950s that the fight for equity actually started to happen, even though the other things had happened, in the previous 180 years. And the reality is people need to wake up and realize, and I'm not saying this just on race issue. I'm saying this on the subject of labor itself. Our laws in this country, they were founded in a space where if you're in labor, that means you are inferior because you were owned, and you were inferior to the owner or whoever owned you, or the property owner, or the industrialist, right? They had this control, and we still haven't shaken those rights. Corporate America, as you said earlier, still to this day, you can look back to maybe a couple decades that they were close to being decent, because they've really fallen away from that here recently over the last 3 decades. I guess that's in my opinion. The reality is corporate America can't control itself. When you give them free reign, we already know what they're going to do. They've clearly stated, they've clearly decided to do it for well over thousands of years.
We have proof in the pudding of it. 4 or 5 years ago, when corporations during the pandemic were given money to ensure they could continue operations through the pandemic, and they used it to buy back stock options and enrich their shareholders, which are not the common person, right? Most of us might have some stock portfolio, but we're not living on the stock portfolio. And that's the decision they made. Instead of making things better for the workers that were struggling with a literal once-a-century pandemic, they bought back stocks, they enriched themselves, they gave bonuses out. And that's not the intention of the money, but it was given to them without the conditions that needed to get put on it. And we saw how they acted.
Right. Absolutely. Again, I don't know if you want to close on anything. I got to shift to the next part of the show. This has been, your addition to the subject, or your energy and your comments and your experience and your energy has been very positive, which is why I'm like, all right, let's just roll with this thing. Let's let it fly, right?
I apologize.
You don't apologize.
Yeah.
Like
if I can,
only apologize if we kick you off and you don't leave.
Well, okay. I'm far too passive for that. We do.
This
have
is the Teamsters, man. We're not afraid to throw someone out the door.
We do have an awesome canvassing opportunity with Assemblymember Reyes, who has also thrown support behind our campaign this Saturday morning. You can if people that are listening want to come out and help this effort and help make sure Fontana schools and the future of the Fontana schools are in hands of labor and are in hands that are going to support and protect labor. Saturday morning, again, that canvas is with Assemblymember Reyes. She's running for Senate District 29. We're doing a joint canvas over Fontana. 8 a.m. is when we're starting. You can find information on my website, which is CHRIST, CHRIST, the number 4, Fontana.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the same handles, CHRIST4Fontana.
So I just had a couple text messages come in on others that were on the PAC committee, and they love you. They thought you were great. They can't wait for you to get elected. And I'm talking Democrats and Republicans, by the way. So you crossed over party lines clearly with our PAC committee. Thanks for coming on. What I'd like you to do is, if you can hang for the rest of the show, I'd like for you to listen in on Kirk and have him kind of talk about his job and try not to dominate the whole show, though. I'm just kidding. No, he's great. I love this guy. He's really good at how he kind of contributes to the discussion. So with that, I'm just going to shift over. Kirk works in our sheriff's department. He is a Teamster, is a proud Teamster, and he is one who is really good at expressing his opinion to me from time to time. I do appreciate that. I get these very straightforward emails that a lot of times I can't disagree with them. They're very much on point. Always appreciate your feedback and really appreciate you being here. Why don't you introduce yourself and actually talk a little bit about the job you do first? Because I think it'd be interesting for listeners to hear how unique your job is.
I'm Kirk Garrison. So I work for San Bernardino County with the Sheriff's Department. In the Scientific Investigations Division. It's a mouthful. I generally, like when I go to testify, I'll just say, you just call it the crime lab. As any good Sheriff's Department employee, I do have to state, any opinions expressed here are my own, do not necessarily reflect my employer, so I got to clear that out of the way. But currently, I'm called a criminalist, which again is another thing where I usually say forensic scientist, more general term.
You're like one of those people on those TV shows, CSI, LA, or Vegas, or something like that, right?
Little same kind of topic, little lower key, a little less high tech, but we get the same job done. So we inspire those stories. So there's a little bit of truth to them there.
You inspire those TV shows and those movies. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's good. And so I'm in the Firearms and Tool Marks unit currently, but I was also in the crime scene unit. Prior to that, I was in a position called Sheriff Service Specialist, which is actually how I kind of got my foot in the door to be in the Sheriff's Department. And actually, prior to that, I was a science teacher for a little bit. So I got a little bit of a connection. I understand the topic there. So currently, which a lot of people don't know, we have a crime lab. It's actually run by the county. It's existed since the 1950s. So it's been around for a while. And we are a full-service lab. So we have a DNA unit, we have our firearms unit, we have a trace unit, we have blood and breath alcohol, we have chemistry, and then, like I said, a fully staffed CSI unit. So we're out there. A lot of times we're the kind of unseen part of the Sheriff's Department. It's not super glorious, but I do find a lot of value in the job. I don't need the spotlight. I'm good enough just knowing that I'm out there helping some people, even if they don't notice it.
So, and those are all Teamsters in that space?
All Teamsters.
Right. That's what's... So, some people would say, are you trying to convict other Teamster leaders? Because we're mobsters, right? Randy Corrigan's a gangster and a mobster, and, we're all corrupt. Obviously, I'm making fun of what the movies say about us. What most people don't realize is that the Teamsters have represented jobs like this for almost 100 years. We don't just represent truck drivers, and I know we did start with wagons and horses, and that moved into power vehicles and then moved into trucks, but we also diversified ourselves in representing public employees and city workers almost right from Jump Street in the very early 1900s. And now it's actually one of our largest divisions within the Teamsters Union. And so one of the things we like about this show is being able to explain that there's this huge department in San Bernardino County that is making sure that your streets are safe, that the criminals are caught, and it's all handled properly. And quite frankly, not just the criminals are caught, but those individuals that did something or didn't do something that were accused of it, because your department's going to prove that they didn't do it, correct?
Yeah, so that's kind of the unique role that I take very seriously with forensic science, is that we are supposed to be kind of that neutral party. We are supposed to be a check on the justice system, because there's times where everything's there. You're maybe just wrong person, wrong time, wrong
place.
spot.
Yep.
And everything initially, when they do their initial investigation, looks good. They start submitting some items to the lab, and we start doing our work, processing it behind the scenes. And we might start emailing that detective and like, hey, you might want to start looking around some more. Not the right person, not the right firearm in my case with what I do. And so we do need to be kind of that check. And I think that's another thing that, especially in our department, which is always fun. Anytime you get a call from the public defender's office, sometimes you can tell sometimes they'll be like a little timid or a little coy because I think for some reason they don't think they can talk to us. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, no, if a public defender calls me, I'm going to talk to him because I'm going to say the same thing to you as I would say to detectives, as I'm going to say in front of the jury, as I'm going to say in front of a judge. Because if I don't have that integrity, my job's kind of worthless at that point.
Yeah, one of the stories I've always shared over the years, being a union rep, I've been in all these kind of crazy situations. I've actually had cameras save more jobs than cost more jobs, where the camera footage actually helped me prove either the situation wasn't as bad as it was alleged, or the camera footage proved that someone didn't do what was alleged that they did. Obviously, that's a very small comparison to gun, forensics, DNA, but I think it's the right analogy in comparing because for me, I do believe over the course of time, a lot of people have been wrongly convicted, and you're in a role that I super appreciate because your role is to make sure that you're finding the real truth as to what happened, not just building a story to put someone in jail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always one of those things too where a lot of times that is the untold story on the forensic sense of things. Usually if you're watching Forensic Files, something like that, yeah, you're getting the story of the big case where they convicted the guy, and that's because those go all the way to trial. Sometimes they go on appeal. They get a lot of coverage. What doesn't get a lot of coverage is when I do some work, I file a report, and I just email the detective with the results that say, this is not the right person. That gets no press coverage, but it happens a lot. It happens a lot more than people think.
I want to thank you personally because I do recognize the fact that, sometimes they don't catch the right guy. And it's that type of work, the diligence in doing that work, that you make sure real justice is actually served, because it doesn't serve anybody justice if the wrong person's convicted.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's one of those things where if the whole system loses integrity if you start convicting the wrong kind of people. And again, it's that good balance. So I know law enforcement, they're out there, they're the first responders. They do the best they can with that information they have right in that moment, because that's just their job function. Their job function is I'm responding to a stimulus right
situation,
now. Yep. So later on, we get to take the long-term approach, and we get to slow things down, draw things out, make sure we're getting the right kind of conclusions. And when we respond to them, I will say, like especially homicide detectives, they are very willing to receive that information because same kind of thing.
Well, it helps them at their job. It helps narrow and get them on the track to find the right person.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And yeah, we have a good rapport with them. They develop a lot of respect for us. So we have a good kind of team dynamic, especially with our homicide detectives. We work with them very, very closely, and they are they're very good at their job. They're very well trained. And that's why we have a very high clearance rate in our county, which is good. Which is, again, just shows that kind of good quality work that law enforcement's doing, but then also all the support staff on the back end, like me, who sits behind the scenes and, like I said, just really kind of tries to make sure that integrity of the whole system stays in place.
Yeah, office assistants and all the other people that, like you said, they're the support staff that just makes the whole department, makes the organization operate.
Mm-hmm.
You got any funny stories that you can share without saying the name? 'Cause I'm sure you
Right.
got some crazy stories.
Yeah, I think one of my funnier moments. My job's a little more stable now that I'm in the lab. It's kind of normal office hours. Again, I'm very secluded. They keep me hidden away. However, when I was in CSI, out in the public, it's a little more dynamic of a situation. And again, not going into any kind of details, but there was
A
time-
situation?
Yeah, there was a time where I found myself on a roof, and I'm doing my thing. And again, it's in CSI. A lot of times you are looking at the ground, which is where I rely on the law enforcement officers that are present to keep me safe, because I don't have my head up. I'm staring at the dirt. I'm swabbing, blood stains, looking for fired cartridge cases. So my nose is in the ground, or I'm looking through the viewfinder of a camera. So I'm on a roof, looking through my viewfinder and my camera, doing my thing, taking photos. And then, kind of down the street, I kind of hear a little something. So I look up, and detective's down the street waving his arms. And, I can't hear him. He's a little too far away. So I'm, doing the whole gesture behind the ear, like, hey, what's happening? Come to find out, he starts jogging down the street, and he's like, hey, you need to get off the roof now because the guy is still in the area. So to me, that's one of those situations where maybe not everyone finds that funny, but it's one of those things like after the fact, I relive it, and I'm like, that's pretty funny to see like a little CSI guy on top of a roof just looking real confused. Man's running down a street after him, waving his hands around, and then all of a sudden I'm trying to scramble down this ladder as fast as I can to go get safe. So
He wasn't in the building that you were on the roof for, were you? Was he?
no, luckily I had a little bit of a distance, so I had some time. But again, yeah, one of those things where it's just one of those, looking at it after the fact, it's just like, that had to look really funny. If I was an observer, looking out my window, that just had to be a funny scene.
Joshua, any questions of our CSI, our famous CSI? What would be the character that he plays if it was?
Is it Abby? Abby was the one that was in the lab.
Oh,
but that's
yeah.
You would be Abby?
Yeah. I'm the nerd in the lab. I listen to music. I'm constantly drinking caffeine. Like, it's pretty good.
So I guess my question, just, we see it on TV, but TV always glorifies everything, right? That's us theater majors. That's what we do. Over dramatize. Tell me the difference between a busy day and a slow day for you. What do those look like?
Oh, we always have something to do. Especially now that I'm in the lab side, things are stacking up, because it's one of those situations where, so in the firearms unit, currently we have 4 full staff and then a supervisor. So the staff does all the work. So you got to think, for all of San Bernardino County, we work for the Sheriff's Department and all the police departments. We have 4 people to do all that casework. So my day is always triaging. I'm always like, okay, what needs to happen first? What can I kind of push off to the side a little bit? So that's always a busy day, but again, it's one of those things where, in the show, I'm sure they never have any kind of casework backlog, because they get their analysis results in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Where I might have to take 2 days, 3 days in order to do my analysis. So a little bit of a time difference, but yeah, we need that drama, because that makes it cool.
What was the most difficult thing to learn in your job?
Honestly, I think for me, the most difficult thing, I think, was actually doing the process of slowing down and being very, very detail oriented. I think just through my past, and even being a teacher is very hectic, high energy. You don't always have time to barrel down on the details. A lot of times you're just trying to put out all the little fires that are going on. So switching to that kind of lab analysis side, where I got one chance to get the right answer, that was definitely a hard adjustment for me. And feeling that weight of like, this is important, this affects people's lives. I don't want to be the reason. Ultimately, it's going to affect
the outcome and the decision. Yeah.
I don't want to be the reason someone gets put in a jail for life for the wrong reason because of something I said. So that was definitely the biggest adjustment, is just feeling that weight and that importance of slowing down, getting it right.
Any suggestions on what people have to do to I mean, obviously people see this show, they see it on shows and they see the glorified part of it, but some people may really want to seek this as a profession. What would you suggest anybody who wants to move in this direction on what to do?
Yeah, so again, as well as they were, again, I kind of laid out that I was a teacher first, and then I worked in environmental, and then I came in at an entry-level position for the sheriff's department. So the biggest thing for going into forensics, get a biology or chemistry degree. I know we just talked about not emphasizing degrees, but this is one instance where it's a good idea.
Yeah, it helps you actually if you like this space, right?
Absolutely. And then definitely do background research on your agency. Every agency is different. Police departments, you're going to be a lot more stagnant. You're probably going to get one position, and that's your position. I've liked working for the county because I've already been in 4 different roles. I've been a sheriff's crime scene specialist, sheriff's service specialist. I did breath alcohol, and then I did firearms. So in a larger agency, you get a lot more movement. So if you're a person that is more about breadth than depth, sometimes working a larger agency gets you kind of that satisfaction of, I can specialize in a lot of different things. And then, of course, working for the county, it is nice that we have our all our benefits and our representation from the Teamsters, and that's always something that I like to pitch for people going into public service and working for the county is you get the good benefits. It's a very stable job. You know what to expect, and it's definitely a solid job to raise a family on.
And I appreciate how much you love being a Teamster. You're obviously a very proud Teamster, and you talk. What do you like the most about being a Teamster?
Like I said, I think the biggest thing for me, because I have 2 young daughters now, and that stability. So I know when I show up to my job, I can't just be at-willed. I can't be out on the street next day trying to find a new job when I have 2 daughters I need to take care of at home. So I love that stability, number one, as a personal reason. Number 2, the community that you get in a union is unmatched. I've never had anything like it. I played baseball through college, so I've been in a lot of team environments. But even went to general membership meeting yesterday, I sat down next to a woman I had never met before, and we had a wonderful conversation. I found out how many sisters she had, her past employment. I got to see someone's family tree. They pulled up their Ancestry.com and they were showing me their family tree, and that's just not something that you get a lot of places anymore. So I think that fellowship and that membership is a great reason for anyone to be in a union and to try to start a union.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself. What a great description of that is what I fell in love with when I was younger. When I come into the membership meeting or go into activities or functions, or you were at the Amazon event that we did in Long Beach, right?
Yes.
And I know you wanted to talk to the general president because you wanted to give BC your mind.
I got a one-liner in.
Oh, you did?
I got a one-liner in.
Oh, what did you get in?
I just told him that this speech was much better than the last one I saw him make.
See, that's why
leave it at that.
He, anyway, you get into those different environments and you see all, different types of people, right? It's every walk of life. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I recognized that being in a union does is there's a place for everybody. There's a place for everybody. I think it's one of those unique places. I think you could describe maybe church this way as well. Mm-hmm. But short of that, it's hard to find any other organization or institution that there's a place for everybody, no matter what your race, your gender, your sexual preference, all the different challenges, your profession, you kind of fit in. And if you want to do good by the community, we typically have something you can connect to in that space. So I really appreciate you describing that and spelling that out. I guess I'd ask you a question. Obviously, you were on the PAC committee, and Joshua was there. What's your take on how he did and your experience with being on PAC?
Yeah, so I'll go to the experience being PAC, because you kind of touched on it earlier when you mentioned that unions are diverse. Our PAC community committee is also very diverse. So we have a lot of different viewpoints. And like you said, people are very willing to express them.
Yes, they are.
They're very willing to express
I have watched
them.
the best arguments happen at PAC meetings, which is kind of why I don't go to them much anymore. I try to let me step away for a bit, let everybody figure it out, and I'll come in the end.
Yeah, it's been quite an experience. I've really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. So that's another thing where, unions give you an opportunity to get involved in a lot of different kinds of ways.
And respect other people's perspectives.
Yes.
Even if you completely disagree with it.
Yep. You are going to be confronted with opinions that you do not agree with. And you need to be able to accept those and realize that it's not going to affect my personal identity, and you can move on with your life. But again, it's something. It's a skill to learn, right? It's definitely something that I've had to learn over time.
Can you have a conversation with all those Facebook meanies right now?
Oh, right. It takes time. You got to just work at it. Be mindful. Feel your emotions. Maybe step back for a couple seconds before you make a comment.
There's always there's always been this, put it in a draft before you send. We should also do that. They should have really think about this before you send it on Facebook, right? Or Instagram or any of the social media outlets.
Dialogue pop-up box that comes up like, are you sure you want to send? And you can hit OK.
Are you really sure?
Yeah, maybe a second one.
We should make an app that's got an AI component to it that picks up on this stuff and then says, really, you need to really think about this. Are you double, triple sure, quadruple sure, quadruple sure? You were going to say something, Joshua?
That fixes all of our digital communications, but what does that do for me who, talks 3 words ahead of where I'm thinking?
Yeah, that's true.
But I would say with
slow
Joshua, I think what always stands out with me, and again with being the PAC, I've seen a lot of different candidates. And I think something that always stands out for me, in my personal opinion, especially with local races, again, I think it's important, just in the same as my job, if I'm going to go testify to a case that you're involved in, I think you're going to hope that I have some kind of training, I have some kind of experience, I have some kind of expertise. So when I express my opinion that this jury's about to listen to, that is going to determine your fate, that should be respected. And anytime, especially like I said with school board, I think having the experience, having kind of some kind of stake in the game, it becomes very, very important. I think we've seen some candidates that it seems like they come out of left field. They don't have kids in the district. They didn't grow up in the district. They've never been a teacher, and they want to come in and express all of these opinions on how schools should be run. Again, with no background knowledge, it seems like they're just coming
Sounds
out of
like
left
Facebook.
field. Yeah, I was like, sometimes I'm like, okay, this guy's he's been retired for 10 years and he's bored, and so he's going to come in and do this now.
This is so true, Kirk. Keep on talking. I love this. This is so true.
So yeah, that's in my personal opinion, when I go, those are kind of things I look for, especially at a local level, because again, things like school board, you're making procedural decisions about schools.
That's correct.
Your political opinion shouldn't really matter at this point. You're there to educate kids. You are there to retain teachers, to have the most qualified teachers to give your children the best education. Simple as that.
Right. You would think it's that simple, but sometimes it gets so complicated by the emotions of human beings, right?
It can.
They jump in and all this kind of stuff erupts, and sometimes you scratch your head and go, is this really happening right now? And this is for an elected or someone seeking elected office. One of the things I always like to explain to, let's say, council members or mayors or any of them is I always trip out on why people would want to seek out public office. Here's my reason for not wanting to do it, even though I've had a lot of people say, hey, Randy, you got to do it. And I'm like, no, I have no interest in it. Anyway, is because most institutions in city government, or let's say the school district or the county or the governor, the state, whatever it may be, the rules, there are so many rules now that have been put in place by the people. Now, the people have forgotten this because of civic responsibility, right? And civic, really understanding how our civic responsibility is. We've demanded over, let's say, 50 years or 60 years or 70 years or 100 years, rule after rule after rule, protection after protection after protection. Like, say somebody did something and some situation happened, put this rule on the books, put that rule on the books, put that rule on the books. So the people have created a tough bureaucracy, right? They've created all this stack of rules. And then I always trip out. Someone runs on an office. I'm going to run for office, and I'm going to cut taxes, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And you're thinking, you can't do all that. Like, it doesn't work that way. Matter of fact, people 35 years ago actually passed a rule to prevent you from coming in and just waving your magic wand and saying, I'm going to make sure the city now does A, B, and C. Apparently, you don't understand how government operates and works. My point is that that's a challenge just to navigate the rules that we have created. They want to blame the electeds that are in the positions, but a lot of times it's actually our own darn fault because we have demanded so many different rule changes along the way, and many of them are in conflict with one another in certain ways, and that makes it hard for those in those positions to actually do their job. So Joshua, why would you want to jump into this space? I just tried to explain why
not to. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. I'm in it for the students, and I'm in it for the future of Fontana, and I'm in it for the future of our society here in Southern California, because education, and I'm gonna steal a Sam Seaborn West Wing quote here, but education is a silver bullet, right? If we can show kids why it's important to learn the things they learn, right? Why do I need to learn this geography? Why do I need to learn this geometry, this math, whatever? If they understand that and we can connect that for them, and we can connect it to what it could be in their future lives, what it could mean in labor, what it could mean anywhere, it's going to impact the future in magnitudes a la butterfly effect, right? Changing a student's life today changes the future tomorrow. And public education, through the history of our country, has been the biggest driving force of innovation. Almost all of our best leaders or innovators are products of public education, right? They're not the trust funds. They're not the trust fund private ed kids. They're not the charter schools.
No.
Right? It's almost like you have the money, so you don't have the drive.
Correct.
So you learn that drive in public school, and it's so important to make sure that we're
point.
Fostering this. And there's a line I've been using on the campaign, but I'm going to throw it down here. We are training the next greatest generation. Mm-hmm. We say, right? There's part of the country that's like, let's go back and make America great again. But they're talking about the greatest generation. We are training that next greatest generation. If we want them to be ready for it, we need to be prepared to do what it takes to make public education the standard in the world, and not we're almost as good as list Scandinavian country here, list any European country here, right?
Something funny on that point is I always find it absolutely ironic when you see a Facebook post or a social media post where someone's attacking a school district and telling them what they need to do, when you look at the post itself and you go, that person ditched English. Like, no. Like, hello, like, you're being critical and you're telling, you're just railing against this institution. First of all, not understanding the processes and what it takes, not willing to go to city council meetings, school board meetings, and first understand what the difference is or what the process is to make change or make suggestions. And then second, at least present yourself in a way that should be more, matching your argument.
Well, and that's there's no glory in being a school board official.
Oh, there absolutely none.
Congratulations,
Correct.
Local office, good for you.
Great.
Right?
That's a great point.
So I don't like I'm running and I want to do it for the students, but what everyone in Fontana should know about me and everyone at Teamsters I think learned about me: transparency, honesty, and authenticity. Right? Anything I tell you, I wouldn't tell you not to your face. Any policy that I want to make sure our schools are implementing or make sure that our students are having, because I understand your political affiliation, I'm not going to change my stance on that policy. I'm going to tell you what I feel and then try and win you over to my side, because I truly believe through my years of experience, this is the best path forward for students. And I would love to see students reap the benefit of my knowledge in the field.
Well, we'd like to see them reap your knowledge in the field, and that's why I believe PAC endorsed you and supporting you, and we're hopeful that you will win in that election coming up here on November 5th. So Kirk, you want to add anything here?
No, I mean, yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. I think that what I would end this is to tell everyone to just remember to be kind.
Please. So, Kirk, I got a couple questions for you real quick. I know we got about 7 minutes, right, Eric? I know I'm supposed to do the news. I think this conversation just went too well to do the news. The news can wait. You can turn on all these other stations and get the news. You don't need to get it from me.
A lot of news podcasts.
Let's be honest with you. Right? There's plenty of people with their spin on the news, right? Hell, some of them aren't even really news. They're actually entertainment, and they're not technically news. Mm-hmm. Anyway, on that subject, what do you think of this show? You listen to the show as much as you can, right, Kirk?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think of this platform? What's your opinion as a member of us, your local union, taking a position like this and doing this work?
Yeah, I think any opportunity to just kind of educate the public, because as it was kind of mentioned before, there's no labor history taught. I have no recollection of any labor history being taught to me, and it's one of those things where I picked up tidbits here and there, but one of the big things that I went through, I know, again, advertised through the union, was I took some classes at LA Trade Tech, and I was just absolutely flabbergasted about some of the things that occurred that I had no idea about, was never told to me, and it's very important information.
You learned those at our union hall, right? With the instructors, we brought them out when doing the classes there.
So this one, I took them remote.
But
right. I would have never taken them if I haven't gone to that meeting and that had not gotten mentioned to me. So I took that initiative, and again, it's very eye-opening. So that's why I think this radio shows like this, especially, it's free, anyone can listen to it, and that type of education that you do not traditionally get, but is very important information, I think is the biggest impact that this radio show could have.
Joshua, what do you think of this platform? You're a union advocate, and obviously you're connected to CTA, NEA, and you're obviously your local chapter.
I'm new to discovering this. I didn't realize this is something that Teamsters has been doing, and as you say, you're a rookie radio host, so I imagine it's fairly new.
Yeah, since November. Yes. I'm going to claim rookie status for years, though.
As you should. As you should.
I'm admitting it ahead of time.
But as someone who gets to drive 45 minutes to an hour on the 10 each way to work and back, this is going to be one of the podcasts that I put on as a regular.
Oh yeah, go on our Teamster View podcast. You can actually go back and listen to all of our old shows.
And on the way here, I was like, I should probably listen to one so I know what I'm getting into.
Hey, but I always love when people interview with me to get a job. And for anybody that's interviewing with me in the future, I ask them, "Did you look at the website?" And when they say no, you've almost first step you've lost.
This is your local teacher saying, "Do your homework."
Right, do your homework. Right.
But I love it as a platform to catch people who don't want the spin that the news is giving them. Right. You're here. You can give them what are the quick hits and how does it impact labor, and that's the lens and the frame at which they get the news, which is beautiful.
You know, and I'm having a fun time with this. It is maddening and it's tough sometimes, and it trying to, do a live show for 2 hours. It was an hour first, and we've expanded it to 2 hours. It does stress me out, but every now and then. But the reason I'm having a good time with this, I feel like the message is getting out. I feel like, that members, that the public, bumping into people that listen to the show that I don't even expect to is really cool, because then they're telling me about things they're picking up on, like you just said, like both of you just pointed out. And it's like, okay, well, that's what gets you giddy, because you're like, okay, well, the message is getting out. People are listening to it. And the other thing it does is it gives people the ability, listen to this show. Like that maybe the subject came up on something regarding labor history. We go, we did that back in May, or we did that in July. And you can send someone the show, they can listen to it, and it's there archived for a fellow union member in labor to be able to share that knowledge with somebody. And we've got 2 minutes left, so we're going to have to.
You know what people don't want to do? Read another email update.
That's true.
They would much rather listen to your update.
That's true. Well, I'm trying to. And one of the things we do is, as soon as the show is over, we obviously package it up and send it out to all of our stewards. And we're finding that a lot of them are listening to it. And we're getting a lot of great ideas from it. And so really appreciate you both coming on. I'm going to wrap the show up. I've got probably about 90 seconds to wrap it up. And I always like to close on what it takes to build worker power. What can you do to build worker power? What we're doing, what Teamsters Local 1932 is doing is obviously we're having this radio show. We have billboards and we have buses. We run newspaper ads sometimes. We're doing everything we can to explain, number one, what worker power is, because I think that, as we just pointed out, our education system has not done a good enough job of explaining what worker power is. We're explaining what worker power is, and we're encouraging workers and the community to talk to their friends, talk to their family, talk to their neighbors, and make sure that we rebuild the relationship with labor and understand its importance and its connectivity to the community. And, this is Randy Corrigan on the Worker Power Hour, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. Longtime organizer, first-time radio host. Signing off.